Hello and welcome to Paramay's Trade Journal. This channel's focus and purpose is to speculate on the futures commodities market. I invite you, aspiring futures commodities traders and technical analysts, into my personal trade journal, my thoughts and process as a 10,000 plus hours aspiring technical analyst, on a journey to forge a living and a discipline to the charts and the trading psychology that comes with it. While the latter comes with time, the hope is to evolve a hardened trade process and that the developments will be as lucrative as they are challenging. One important note is the title of the channel. While many would say Paramay trades or Paramay, the pronunciation is actually Paramay, which is short for Paramaysareh. Paramaysareh translates into the highest of the high, the highest of the world. Something that I picked up in my yogic travels and have become quite fond of, the utterance and the vibration of the word. Do I one day believe this channel will contain the highest of the high, the highest trades? Absolutely. Else, why go through the trouble if not for the journey? The destination I seek is the success in the markets, profitability. The continued process is this journal, and I have decided to become transparent in my journey with the public. How is profitability accomplished? I think through the process. If the most important trade book you ever read is the one you write, this channel and our chat community is just that. And so I share with you. We will use a handful of methodology from various amazing authors, with particular interest in the future market sentiment through Commitment of Traders report, found in the literature of Larry Williams, Trade Stocks and Commodities with the Insiders, Secrets of the COT report, which is a really illuminating read if you have the time. We'll delve into some price action, limit our look-back periods, search for pivots, ranges, and helpful patterns that emerge to see if we can find ourselves on the profitable side of the trade. Not only will we search for direction, but we will hopefully establish a reason for entering the trade and a reason for exiting the trade. So with the following in mind, I'd like to take a quick look at what we are proposing as a leading indicator to future market sentiment, which is commercial interest, big money, and the COT report. So what I have in front of you is typically how I start my video. I like to look at the commitment of traders at week's end and kind of get an idea of where this big money is looking, where they're putting their positions, and can we get on the same side of the trade as the commitment of traders? So just a quick look at the report that I generate each week. On this major tab, you'll see that I've got a couple of very important columns here. One is the 6-month COT index, the Commitment of Traders Index, and the other is the 3-year Commitment of Traders Index. So this index was actually picked up through Larry's book. So this is his brainchild. He gives the information in his book on how to generate a Commitment of Traders Index to see where their money is being, or where their positions are being spent, or where they're taking positions. So the CFTC, see if I've got that right, CFTC is the gathering party. So they gather the information. These positions are submitted to them, cftc.gov, every Tuesday, and the report comes out on Friday. So we take the report from bar charts, and then we generate the index. So this is the legacy report that we download from bar charts, who I think and do believe that get their information from the CFTC. So we take this legacy report and we incorporate it into this Excel spreadsheet, and we can look at the positions over a 6-month period and a 3-year period. So the last 3 years. So we've got the lowest value of the last 3 years and the last 6 months. And we generate this based off of a mathematical equation, right? So while that's not something that we're going to take a look at right now, we'd just like to quickly point out an additional column that we add to this report, or that I add to this report, is a 5-week prior. So we use the 6-month index as intraday traders, and we use a 5-week prior so that we can see sentiment shift. So we're looking for direction change. And I have some of the commodities highlighted here as a potential watch list. So we want to look at, certain things. So anything over 80% is considered an extremely positive outlook. Anything under 20% is considered an extremely negative outlook, or bearish. So over 80, positive and bullish. Under 20, negative and bearish. So if our index is telling us that we're at 100%, that's usually an indication that commercial interest has set a new high, a new net long high position for a certain commodity. So one of the ones that we've been looking at lately, so we can illustrate this a little bit better, let's take a look at the Canadian dollar, for instance. So the sentiment shifted within the last 5 weeks of just about 50%, and they set a new high. So this kind of piques our interest, right? This is the purpose of these two columns, and for intraday traders is we can take a look at these two numbers and say, wow, there's a significant amount of sentiment shift by big money. So what's going on here? So we have these separated into tabs, into worksheets underneath, and we can look at the Canadian dollar here. So lo and behold, we've got a 5-week look back that's somewhere in the 50% range, which is about middle ground. But the commitment of traders of coming off a few weeks of a rather negative outlook on the Canadian dollar. So then, with our interest peaked here, we can look and see and say, okay, what's going on here? Why are they shifting sentiment? There's quite a bit of change going on here. Can we look at this at a chart? And we do have a graphical representation of this. So I use Thinkorswim, and we have put this into an indicator so that we can have this on the chart. I like to look at the report as the report comes out on Friday to kind of get an idea of where things are. For instance, silver and live cattle, commitment of traders are looking pretty positive on these two titles too. But so let's just take this index and let's look at a chart, and let's look at the Canadian dollar. Now let's just do something here. Let's just clean this chart up. I'm going to clear this chart out, and one of my favorite things to do every time I open up TOS is have to move down the open interest into another lower area. So our index is one thing, but we also couple, or at least I do, based on a couple of the teachings in Larry's literature about open interest, and he also, I believe, developed this indicator called the Williams percentage R. And market sentiment is something new that I use too. So here's our 6-month index, right? So our 6-month and our 3-year index. So the purple line represents the 6-month, and the green line represents the 3-year index. Okay. So on this indicator, we have above 80% and below 20% as our extremes. So what we're working with right now, and what we're looking at in the Canadian dollar, is that commercial interest has broken into extreme territory. They've set a new high. So on the surface here, and what we do like to see is a relative low open interest when commercials are getting bullish. So this means a lot of people are getting out here. A lot of contracts are closed. People are not as interested in the Canadian dollar right now, probably mostly because of the dramatic sell-off here that's been happening. So we've got this nice gap down, right? So closing positions, people are not very optimistic about this right now, at least not as buyers. So we've looked at this chart and said as an intraday trader and said, or at least deduced that commodity traders are getting a little bit bullish here on a 3-week period. Is market sentiment shifting a little bit? So we did see a little bit of price action here. That would have been a nice gain if you were a buyer. We also saw inverse or counter to the bullish setup is a very negative outlook on the Canadian dollar by commercial interest. So this broke down pretty hefty, right? From 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, nearly setting new highs on the 6-month index. That was about 91, right? This is something I like to do too. Make it easier for illustrative purposes here. Look at the sell-off and the negative outlook that occurred by commercial interest, both on the 6-month index and the 3-year index. And we broke that 20 range down here. They're not very optimistic up here about the continuation of the Canadian dollar. And in price action in the market, moved down a little bit here. And then we say we've got a nice increase over a 5-week period here by commercial interest, and the market did the same thing. We kind of moved up a little bit. So then we again breach that 20 range for a couple of weeks. Pretty negative outlook here. And we did get some market sell-off here. And even more so with the market the way that it's been lately, with the economies the way that they are, with market sentiment the way that they are, there's a tremendous sell-off. There's been a tremendous sell-off in just about everything. And the Canadian dollar has not been doing that well. But what we've got now on the 6-month index is a very decisive increasing positive outlook. So now that we've just broken this range, this extreme range, and we're just up against it here, commercial interest is getting a little bit more bullish on this. So are we going to see some, a reaction from the Canadian dollar? Are we going to get some kind of retrace going here? So this is the main focus, the main purpose is at least on the surface. As we get this report on Friday, we take a look at the commitment of traders. We see where the sentiment is shifting, and we see if we can align ourselves with a change in direction. What I think that bulls really like to see, at least from the commitment of traders, from what I've gathered here, WPR in this overextended or oversold range, diminishing or relatively low open interest, bullish commercial interest, and market sentiment is low. When market sentiment is low, we think rally. When it's high, we think short. So this actually, I hadn't looked at this chart until now, but this actually looks pretty good. This actually looks pretty good. I would drill down in the lower time frames and see if we can find a swing pivot here, which is another area that we study as we look for short-term lows, long-term lows, intermediate lows. We try to look for a swing pivot here to see where we can get into this trade. I think looking at a chart beyond a year is only useful in respect to something like this, where price is traveling down considerably low. So maybe you want to look back a little bit further. And let's just clear this drawing set here and just take a quick look. And so the last time the Canadian dollar traded this low was back in 2015 here. So this, this could be an important level, to watch or to look back on. But moving forward, with a setup like this, we'll be looking to be a buyer here. Why? Because we want to align ourselves with the larger money. Because if they generally want to find themselves on the right side of the trade, we would like to align ourselves with them. They have to say, where is this going, after that. But I would look at your lower time frames, which is something that we do in this channel. It's something that I do on a regular basis. Is look for these swing patterns to emerge. Granted, I haven't looked at this chart in a while, but what do we got going on here? Most people, a lot of people call these, trend lines. It's just a way to visualize what's going on. You've got descending highs. Yeah, you got descending highs. You can see that clearly on the chart, but it's a little bit helpful, They can only seek to help. I wouldn't put all your money on it. I would watch these areas for trading activity, but I would not blindly take shorts or longs, just based off a trend line. You've got to look at this area on a lower time frame, and look at these impulse legs to see what's going on. And right now, there's a tremendous amount of sell-off. So what do we have? What do we have here that would have gotten us into the long trade? Just while we're here. You go like a shoulder, kind of like a head and shoulder type pattern. It doesn't. I like this. I like this W pattern in terms of bulls, and maybe you're a buyer here when we get this nice. This was a nice swing, right? This looked like a short-term low. Could at least benefited from this, at least a little bit on this retrace here. So this definitely would have gotten us in the trade if we were paying attention. This is a nice. These are two nice bullish cues going on here. Nice two bullish defensive candles. So we had this short-term range that we traded into on the 15-minute chart, and it just wasn't adding any of that, right? We come down here, we sweep the lows, and off we go. So that would have been a nice bullish trade there. This is something that we look at on all time frames. Particularly, I focus on the 15-minute time frame, but 15 and the 5 because I'm an intraday trader. But these are some of the resources we use. So, thanks for joining the channel, and just remember that this is our main approach to trading, at least the futures commodities, is to use the Commitment of Traders report to see if we can gain some kind of advantage in future market sentiment. And right now, the Commitment of Traders, your commercial interest, is telling us right now that this is starting to turn into a bullish chart here. And you'd be saying, Paramay, hey, this doesn't look bullish at all. A lot of people would be, fooled into thinking that this isn't a bullish chart, right? But this is a very low value for this. And so far as we can see since 2015, that this is, markedly low. And I think they might be thinking the same thing here. Market sentiment, people are not very optimistic about this. And I don't know where TD Ameritrade gets their market sentiment analysis or data from, but in our analysis, usually when market sentiment is low, when nobody wants it, that's usually the time to buy. Okay, well, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Hope you find yourself on the profitable side of the trade. We do have a Discord community. It's listed in the description. So if you'd like to join, feel free to. It's open. Most of the content on our Discord is read-only, though. So I will alert you to that. But we do post, or I do post, my trade journal specifics and I even post my trades. So I do a lot of analysis, and I post through all my thoughts and my process as an analyst, and all the different markets. What I'm looking at. I do post our the COT report, Friday roundup each week, which are also located on the channel. So feel free to view those if you'd like, and we do a much more in-depth breakdown of the COT report each Friday. So our Friday roundup is here, and we've got a trade channel. Most of these talk trade trade talk channels, are open to the public. A lot of the trade speculating is meant for some of our senior members. So please feel free to join. So thanks for stopping in, and we'll see you on the next video.